Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Objective brought to you by the Ayn Rand Center UK, where we apply the practical philosophy of objectivism to everything, including current events. And the biggest current event of the last 50 plus days has been the war in Israel with Hamas and various other bad actors in the region. It's just come out recently that Hamas has determined to bring the Mossad, the great and fantastic spy agency, the Mossad, down on the leaders of Hamas wherever they reside. We know that those leaders are in Qatar, and maybe some of them are in Turkey. If they want to go to Turkey, their esteemed fundamentalist Islamic president has warned Israel that should they decide to kill Hamas leaders in their state, their own secret services are going to get involved, and there will be consequences that Israel will not be able to recover from. But to help me unpack this from an objectivist perspective, James Valliant, great to be with you again. I'm glad the space between our last visit isn't as big as the time before that. How are you doing, man? What do you think of this craziness?
Oh, I'm doing okay, but this is a crazy, crazy thing. Let's see. I was a prosecutor and prosecuted local crimes for almost 18 years. If there's a conspiracy to commit murder, let's say you and I decide we're going to kill our producer, Daniel, and I help supply you. I give you the money. I'm involved in the planning, but you're the guy who goes out and does the killing. And then you come running back to my house and I let you into my house and I say, you can't come in that. Anyone defending Daniel can't come into my house because I'm protecting the guy that attacked Daniel. Under criminal law, standard criminal law, the person doing the protecting is just as guilty as the killer. They are, if they were involved in the helping beforehand, there are principles to the murder, and they get the full punishment as the murderer. If they only found out about it after the fact and they're helping harbor the person, then they are, of course, accessories after the fact, and they deserve a long prison sentence as well. So anyone helping, giving material aid to the murderer is guilty in a sense of that crime of murder in some capacity. So anyone knowingly harboring Hamas leaders, anyone who helped plan or execute October 7th, if you are protecting them, you are aiding and abetting a murderer. Under standard criminal law, you are as guilty, in effect, if you knew about what they were doing beforehand, which Turkey and Qatar definitely did, then they are what we would call principals to the murder. That is to say, they are just as guilty. They are just as guilty. If we say the Hamas leaders didn't behead or rape or burn anybody. They were off giving orders. They were doing planning. They were helping coordinate supplying them. Well, guess what? They are murderers. And guess what? Anyone who is knowingly harboring them is aiding and abetting in that murder. So if we take the principles, the basic principles of self-defense and criminal law, apply them internationally, this is a no-brainer. In fact, Turkey's statement is an act of aggression. Merely harboring Hamas leaders is an act of war against Israel and the United States. Turkey is a NATO member. If Turkey were to be attacked, say by Russia, all the members states of NATO would be obliged to help Turkey in its act of defending itself against attack. However, one of the conditions of protection is that you not be an aggressor. Turkey is currently an aggressor against Israel and should be kicked out of NATO. We have not only no obligation to Turkey as a NATO member, they are an aggressor. They're not being attacked. They are engaged currently in an aggressive act of war against Israel and should, for that fact, be removed from the self-defense pact of NATO. Period. Qatar should be the object of war. Turkey should be the object of war for Israel. This threat on their part is, we've got these killers who raped, killed, and beheaded you on October 7th. You can't touch them. We're protecting them, and we will attack you if you ever try to defend yourself from our protection of your murderers. No, that is an aggressive act. Turkey right now may as well have declared war on Israel, period. Israel would have, if they had the power and the right, they would have a right to go to war with Turkey. Based on one of my favorite articles, of course, written by an objectivist in the last 40 years, My teacher and mentor, Dr. Leonard Peikoff, wrote a great article, made a great speech, and states that sponsor terrorism. Turkey is declaring to the whole world, we are actively aiding, abetting, and sponsoring terrorism. Any act of defense against that will be met with further aggression. Turkey is the aggressor against Israel in saying this. And they act, of course, the way they formulate it is that as if it's an act of self-defense when they are a vile aggressor sanctioning October 7th. They are giving we talk about these demonstrators who are pro-Palestinian demonstrators in the West. Turkey has gone well beyond that. They are materially supporting, they are physically protecting, and now they're threatening Israel should Israel do a basic act of self-defense against aggression. They are guilty of October 7th, full stop. After the fact, maybe, but they are guilty of October 7th. They have adopted it by reference, in effect. Yes. And if you try to defend yourself against October 7th with people who pulled it off here in our country, we will attack you. That is a further act of aggression. Full stop.
James, I'm not exactly sure how you feel about this. Okay, so I agree with everything you're saying. It seems to comport with common sense, but of course we know our political leaders and the leaders of all the other countries of the world do not care about common sense. They look at things from a pragmatist's point of view. So you and I might say, okay, the first response should be NATO completely dissociates itself from Turkey. As automatically, you're out. Of course, now they're afraid that Turkey's going to go to Iran. It's going to ally itself with China and with Russia. These things
Bring
are
it
probably
on, baby. Bring it on.
These things are probably happening anyway, but that's what they would purport to fear. So that should be the first. And then do you think there should be a statement by our president or somebody of equivalent stature, the State Department, that says this is an aggression, this is an act of war, you're harboring criminals, murderers, mass murderers.
You are being aggressive against an ally of the United States. You are engaged in an act of war. You are endorsing October 7th and making more October 7ths possible. That should all be made quite clear. The world's conception of self-defense and the right of self-defense is obviously twisted, messed up, altruist polluted, cultural relativism polluted. And so therefore, any act of self-defense on the part of Israel is not properly understood. I mean, when you realize, for example, the atrocities, we've been talking about rape, and it took, of course, 55 days or 50-some days for the United Nations unit on violence against women to even notice how rape was being used as an act of war on October 7th against girls and women in the most—
This is still being debated.
It's still being debated.
Despite forensic evidence. It's not, well, I mean, we've had eyewitness testimony from IDF soldiers who went into places and saw these dead people with their pants down, with semen on their bodies. We've seen eyewitness survivors from this event who witnessed people being raped and having their brains blown out in the midst of the rape. I know testimonials might not go that far for people, but then there's forensic evidence. These people were examined by medical examiners, medical professionals who attest to the same types of thing. And yet still this is controversial.
Women and children raped to death now as a policy. Now, there's nothing that can morally justify that. No act of self-defense could justify raping and beheading and torturing people, women and children. That is inexcusable. And then you hear people saying, well, but I don't want to engage in this hierarchy of oppression. What was that one congresswoman who put it that way? What nonsense. As if Israel's acts of self-defense in some way balance out the horrors of the aggression on October 7th. No, there's no excuse for it. There's no justification for it.
Oh, is that the one? Is that the one who's been recently called out on the mat? What's her name? J-Pal, something like that. Whatever.
I don't even
we have in fairness, we have to talk about both sides of the issue.
Both sides. No, there's no equivalence after October 7th. Sorry, Israel does not rape and behead people as a matter of policy, mutilate bodies as a matter of policy. No, they do not. And
Wait, but James, individual soldiers have done bad things. There have been IDF soldiers who have committed acts of rape and committed atrocities against the Palestinian people. How is that different?
well, if there are, it's not a matter of policy.
Right. And these people, when they're caught, are prosecuted
by the IDF itself.
There was one soldier who was filmed recently throwing a flash grenade into a mosque. And this was brought out by the Palestinian sympathizers as, look at the atrocities, to the just wantonness on the part of these IDF soldiers. What they leave out is that that person was caught and suspended from the military for what they did. There was no injuries for what happened, but they prosecuted the guy because Israel has a different standard of right, a different standard.
Still has hostages. Hamas and other extreme groups have hostages in Gaza right now. Still, women and children.
Yes, this should be a disqualifier for mercy as well. When you use human beings as one, human shields, and two, bargaining chips, you are dehumanizing them. You are committing crimes against humanity by doing that.
And by interacting with Qatar and Turkey, what are we doing but sanctioning exactly that? Sanctioning exactly that evil. They can only be agents. We say, well, we need Turkey and Qatar to be the intermediaries so we can negotiate for them. No. Bullshit. We need to sanction evil so we can sanction evil so we can get more death, is all I'm hearing. And if Turkey would go over to Iran and China as a result of our taking a stand on Israel, so much the more clarifying. It's time to determine whether or not Turkey, do it or get off the pot, Turkey. And I would force that decision upon them. Thank you. And if America were to have that kind of moral resolve to do what I'm saying, that would suggest to them, I think, what the results would be should they do that. But of course, so people just think about blowback only in the negative sense. No, this is the kind of blowback that would actually be quite informative.
I'm experiencing something like this in the fandom convention world, where I see people get persecuted, and I wonder why their actor friends, supposedly, and those with a great deal of economic power, don't come down on the fans who are persecuting the actors, because they could solve the problem in 1/2 a second. They might lose a few thousand followers. There might be a campaign launched against them, but they would stop the habit of internet bullying. But people are afraid of blowback in that negative sense, and so they hold something higher: their popularity, the fact that they go along with the fandom over truth and justice. So you can't hold anything higher than truth and justice. So let's say an objectivist like you is in power right now. You would encourage NATO to break away from Turkey. You would issue an ultimatum to Turkey, I'm assuming, that they are committing an act of aggression against an ally of the United States that is against the law and the laws of humanity. Forget international law, just the laws of right, the moral laws of right, to harbor murderers, to harbor people who plan entire holocausts. These people are a scourge to humanity, and you will pursue them to the ends of the earth. If Turkey decides to place its soldiers in the way, they will become cannon fodder. Now, how long do you think these bully jackoffs are going to last when you have that threat with the actual intention of doing something about it?
You took the words right out of my mouth, my brother. You named it. You nailed it. That's exactly it. We need an ultimatum. The very act of harboring these people is an act of aggression against an ally of ours. It's an act of aggression. Forget what you just said about threatening Israel if they should act in self-defense. The very act of harboring these Hamas monsters is an act of aggression, international aggression against humanity. That disqualifies you from NATO membership. Should you take any action, first, you're going to withdraw that statement, that threatening statement against Israel defending October 7th, which is all it is. You withdraw that, or we kick you out of NATO immediately. If you do not, if you do anything, now you had best kick Hamas out, because we, the United States, morally sanction and approve of any act of Israel within your borders to get the people that help plan or pull off October 7th. Period. Full stop. You are
But
out.
James, I hear the libertarians now. James, these objectivists, you guys are all a bunch of warmongers. You guys love war. You guys love statism. What do you say to jerk-offs like that? Which
No, you're the ones who want endless war. You're the ones who want more October 7th again and again and again, just like the Hamas leader said after October 7th. And your appeasement, look, we have to look to the causes. It's this appeasement that is what got us here. No, I want to end the threat. When you have a mad, crazy, psychotic, inhuman, bloody monster like Hamas out there, the threat must be annihilated, or you are inviting more violence. Anyone who does not want the total destruction of Hamas is the one who wants war. Hamas is the aggressor. Hamas are the unreasonable.
Did you just hear a little statistic? This is sort of related, but sort of not. That only 47% of the people who advocate from the river to the sea know which river and sea they are talking about.
Yeah, the shocking ignorance, the stories. I've seen news. Well, you ask these students because they just get this propaganda from their professors at university, and they'll repeat it back. So these aren't, Palestinians abroad. No, these are just stupid people listening to left-wing media and their college professors. Yeah, and they have no clue what's going on. You hear what I've heard now reports from. They went to Australia, they went to London, they went to New York, they went to these college campuses. Every single time, these pro-Palestinian protesters, there's a huge percentage that don't know what they're talking about at all. They don't even have a clue as to the history. They don't have a clue as to what's going on.
And that's why the Palestinian movement, I consider, if you identify as Palestinian, as some sort of separate ethnicity from the Jordanian Arabs, the Syrian Arabs, the Egyptian Arabs, you are making a political statement. You're attaching yourself to an entire ideology, right? And it seems like it's the reason the Palestinians are winning that ideological war is because they know our mental capacity has been reduced to concretes and to slogans. And if they can capture the slogan market, if they could show enough pictures that excite the sympathies of the superficially thinking, then they're going to win them over. The argument for Israel is a long one. It's abstract, and you have to prove it from its beginnings. It's based on abstract principles like rights and legitimate statehood. And the Palestinian
conceptually is hard, Mark. Though
that's hard.
Actually takes effort.
That's hard, but from the river to the sea is a fancy slogan you can chant with your buddies that makes you feel good at the same time.
But women's rights groups who defend, first of all, the Islamic culture, the way they treat women, but won't even raise their voice. It takes them 50-some days before they raise the voice. There are women's groups in America that still haven't officially stated their objection to what happened on October 7th.
But that's because what they're in bed with that power hierarchy thing, the hierarchy of oppression. They buy that conflict narrative, and as far as they're concerned, they're oppressed like them. They're low on that social hierarchy, social power hierarchy. So they're brothers in arms, even if these people are really super bad.
And let's see, our LGBTQ plus people for Palestine. Oh, they're obviously thinking things through conceptually too. I mean, no, these people don't even realize how they're supporting their worst enemies on this planet. They enemies of any kind of tolerance and civilization and civilized understanding of the role of women or gays. I mean, it is so shocking because on the one hand, it's true, they're confused. On the other hand, the facts are pretty straightforward. I mean, how in the face of the facts of October 7th, in the face of the facts of what goes on in the Islamic world, they have to evade a huge amount just to allow themselves to be conceptually confused in this way. So the first step is to recognize, ladies and gentlemen, that when you're defending the Palestinians, and I'll put that term in quotes, you have a responsibility to take that effort of thought. What am I defending here? What am I advocating for here? And think it through. And there are plenty of, like I say, obvious facts that might nudge you right into the truth if you let them, or if you attend to them for about 2 seconds. They might nudge you in the direction of the truth, but they will not. That's exactly what they can't do.
Well, these creepy collectivists are really good at pointing out inconsistencies in our life, our inconsistencies with our values of rights, Israel's inconsistencies, and finding those little blotches and spaces in history where Israel or America did bad things, and then try to besmirch the entire idea of America and Israel through those contradictions.
There's no doubt that you'll hear sexist comments or inappropriate comments against homosexuals and even trans people. There's even threats and violence against them in America. But the question is, are you worried? Look, in America, people complain about when you don't use the right pronouns. In Iran or in Gaza, you will get executed. Your pronouns will be, what is the joke someone had? Your pronouns will be was and were. If you,
I haven't heard that one.
If you were trans, yeah. So you can get offended by our use of language over here in America, but you know something? They'll do more than get offended at the use. You'll get more than offended at their use of language over there. I promise.
Listen, folks, for you out there who are not part of the converted, not objectivists. If you are trans, if you are gay, if you are a woman, if you are part of any minority that you perceive to be a group that has been on the short side of history and has been attacked and unjustly, then the last thing you want is the elimination of the two lights of the world that are your only hope for survival, and that is America and Israel. Do not let go of them because they are morally inconsistent. Work to make them morally consistent the way Frederick Douglass worked to make America morally consistent. He didn't throw out the baby with the bathwater. He understood that the principles the founders brought into the world were the greatest principles on earth. What America needed to do was align themselves with them, not throw them out like the stupid ass left wants to do. I have a couple of super chats here. Catherine with $4.99. All of these states are showing who they really are, but who is listening? I'm sorry, the world is. And that's unfortunate. And the world is bowing to this kind of crazy irrationality. Bonnie gave us 99 cents. Thank you, Bonnie, for your contribution. James, any final thoughts? We have to get going because we have a show coming up 6 p.m. The reality show, U.S. colleges defend students calling for genocide. Are you going to be there for this? Are you?
No, last not. But what a great topic for a show. They had those presidents from those fancy universities, MIT and Harvard, testifying before Congress, and they could not articulate a defense of Jewish students who are under such threat. Great discussion. You can't miss that, folks. Can't miss that. And thank you for the super chats. You're getting a perspective here you'll never get obviously. You won't get anywhere else. So if you think that's important, please do watch, subscribe, hit like, share, tell your friends, and consider becoming a paid subscriber at whatever level you can afford to the Ayn Rand Center United Kingdom.
Absolutely, you're paying for these presentations. At least gives them a little bit of purchase in the world. You want these ideas to have a foothold if they're to have any influence in our culture. James, it's been great talking to you. I want to do it again as soon as possible. Everybody out there, stay tuned. In 5 minutes, the reality show will be coming up, and in that 5 minutes, do me a super huge favor. Check your premises. Peace.
Be well.
Recording